Today, our bedtime stories will be taken from a book illustrated by Mouse Kelly. The title is My First Book of Bedtime Stories. It was compiled by Tick Thomas and illustrated by Mouse Kelly, and it's in table of contents. Our first 10 stories, we're going to read it from stories that are titled Once Upon a Time. So settle down and listen as the stories read to you. I hope by now you have changed into your PJs and you're very comfortable in your bed. Today, the list of stories we're going to read includes Sleeping Beauty, The Gingerbread Man, The Crow, Little Red Riding Hood, Rumpelstiltskin, Chicken Licken, The Three Little Pigs, The Elf and the Shoemaker, The Wolf and the Seven Little Kids, and Goldilocks and the Three Bears. So let us begin our first story. Once upon a time, a king and a queen had a beautiful baby girl. They loved her very much. The king and the queen invited the 12 fairies in the kingdom to the baby's christening, but they didn't invite the 13th fairy, who was mean. On the day of the christening, every fairy came to give the princess a special gift. One wished that she would always be happy, and another wished that she would be loved all her life. One by one, they gave the princess their wishes. They had nearly finished when the door burst open, and the mean fairy walked in. She was very cross, had been missed out of the party. The bad fairy walked up to the baby's cradle and said, "Let me give her a gift too. I say that when the princess is 15, she'll prick her finger on a spindle and fall down dead." Then she walked out. Everyone was very upset, but the 12th fairy came forward. "I have not yet given my gift," she said. "I cannot take away the bad wish, but I can change it a little. The princess will not die. Instead, she will sleep for 100 years until she is woken by a true love's kiss. But if she doesn't wake for 100 years, no one will be there when she wakes up, and our castle will be in ruins," said the queen. "I'll arrange it so that everyone goes to sleep with her, and that the castle and everything in it are there when she wakes up," said the fairy. The king was so worried about the bad fairy's wish that he arranged for all spindles in the kingdom to be burned. The princess grew up, and everyone loved her. She laughed and sang all day long, and she was a kind and lovely young girl. One day, when the princess was 15, she found a staircase in the castle that she had never seen before. She went up the stairs and found a little bedroom, and there she saw an old lady spinning wool onto a spindle. Of course, it was the mean fairy in disguise. "What's this funny thing?" the princess asked when she touched the spindle. At that moment, she pricked her finger on it and fell into the bed fast asleep. At the same time, everyone in the castle fell asleep. The king on his throne, the queen with her ladies in waiting, the cook in the kitchen, and the horses in the stable. At the same time, a thick hedge of thorny bushes grew up around the castle. It was completely hidden, and after a few years, all the people of the land forgot it was there. One day, 100 years later, a prince came riding by. He saw the hedge and decided to chop his way through with his sword. The thorns ripped at his clothes, but he kept going. He really persevered. Finally, the prince was through the hedge. He walked into the palace, which was now covered in dust and cobwebs. Everywhere, people were sleeping. Even the birds in the garden and the flies on the windowsills were asleep. The prince eventually came to a little bedroom in a tower. On the bed in this room was the most beautiful girl she had ever seen, lying asleep. In that moment, he fell in love with her. The prince bent down and kissed the princess. As soon as he did this, she opened her eyes, and in that moment, she fell in love with him. They walked down through the palace together, where everyone had woken up now. When they found the king and queen, the prince asked permission to marry their daughter. The king and queen happily agreed. The wedding took place 1 week later, and they invited all the fairies to the celebrations except the bad one. The end. The next story is The Gingerbread Man. I love this story. Once upon a time, a woman was doing some baking. She took a big piece of delicious gingery dough, rolled it out, and shaped into a little man. Then she stuck in 2 brown currants for his eyes and decorated his face and body. Looks like it's going to be very yummy. But just as the woman was about to put him into the oven, he jumped down from the baking tray and ran away, saying, "Run, run as fast as you can. You can't catch me. I'm the gingerbread man." "Stop him!" shouted the woman to her husband. The man made a grab for the gingerbread man that he ran on, saying, "Run, run as fast as you can. You can't catch me, I'm the gingerbread man. I've run faster than a woman, and I can run faster than you." And he ran on, laughing. The man couldn't catch the gingerbread man, but he shouted to his children who were playing in the garden, "Stop that gingerbread man!" The children ran after him, and he said, "Run, run as fast as you can. You can't catch me, I'm the gingerbread man. I've run faster than a woman and a man, and I can run faster than you." And he ran on, laughing. The children couldn't catch the gingerbread man, but they saw their dog by the gate, so they shouted, "Dog, stop that gingerbread man." So the dog ran after the gingerbread man, but he said, "Run, run as fast as you can. You can't catch me, I'm the gingerbread man. I've run faster than a woman and a man and the children, and I can run faster than you." And he ran on, laughing. As the gingerbread man ran along, he came to a river. "I can't cross that," he said. "If I get wet, I'll crumble away to nothing." So he stopped running. Just then, a clever old fox came up. "I'll give you a lift across the river," he said. "Climb onto my back and I'll swim you across." So the gingerbread man climbed onto the fox's back. Halfway across the river, the fox said, "Gingerbread man, I'm swimming low in the water. Climb onto my neck, up onto my neck, and you won't get wet." So the gingerbread man climbed onto the fox's neck. Now the fox started to smell the delicious smell of the gingerbread man, and he felt very hungry. When they were 3/4 of the way across, he said, "The water is getting deeper. Climb round onto my forehead." And the gingerbread man climbed onto the fox's forehead. He was very near the fox's mouth now. As they got near to the other side of the river, the fox said, "Just climb down onto my nose. Then I know you'll be safe." So the gingerbread man climbed right down to the fox's nose. And then the fox threw his head up. So the gingerbread man flew up in the air, and the fox opened his mouth, ready to gobble the gingerbread man down. But then the gingerbread man gave a little wriggle in the air and landed on the bank of the other side of the river. Really smart. He danced and he twirled, then he ran away, laughing and saying, "Run, run, run, as fast as you can. You can't catch me. I'm the gingerbread." Our next story is titled The Crow. Once upon a time, there were three princesses. They were all young and beautiful, but the youngest was the kindest. A little way from the palace in which they lived, there was a castle. It was old and broken down, and no one lived in it. But the garden was full of beautiful flowers, and the youngest princess often went to walk there. One day, when she was looking at the flowers, a black crow popped out of a rose bush in front of her. The poor bird's wing was torn and bleeding, and the kind little princess was sad for it. When the crow saw this, it turned to her and said, "I'm not really a black crow, but a prince who has been turned into a crow by a witch. If you were willing, princess, you could save me, but you would have to say goodbye to your family and come and live in this ruined castle. There is one room in it that's fit to live in which there is a golden bed. You would have to stay there all by yourself, and no matter what you see, you must never cry out or scream or make any noise." The kind princess agreed, and after returning home to say goodbye to her family, she hurried back to the castle and moved into the room with the golden bed. When night came, she lay down in the golden bed. At midnight, the door opened and a fierce tiger entered the room, growling and snarling at her. The princess lay quite still in the middle of the bed and did not say a word. Then the tiger disappeared, and a huge green snake came slithering straight towards her. The princess was frightened, but she never made a sound. Next, there was a huge monster crawling around the room. Again, she kept quite still, and soon this vanished too. The next moment, the crow appeared and hopped all around the room with joy. It thanked the princess and said that the spell would be broken soon if she went on like this. For several more nights, scary things appeared round the princess's bed, but she never said a word. After a few days, one of the princess's older sisters came to visit her. The older princess decided to stay the night. When the scary sights appeared, she screamed in terror, and the youngest princess nearly joined in. After that, she always kept watch alone. She might have been very lonely, but the crow visited her every day and talked to her. One day, the princess was in the garden picking some flowers for her room when a pale but handsome young man came up to her. He knelt down at her feet and kissed her hands. "I am the prince," he said, "and he saved me. I've fallen in love with you over the months you have helped me. Will you marry me and come and live with me in my castle?" The princess happily agreed, and as they turned around to look at the castle, they saw it was no longer broken and old, and shining and new. And there they lived for many years of joy and bliss. Our next story is The Little Red Riding Hood. Now I hope you've all changed into your PJs and you're very comfortable, very snugly in your beds right now. Well, let us continue our story. Once upon a time, there was a little girl who always wore a riding cloak with a red hood. So everyone called her Little Red Riding Hood. One day, her mother said to her, "Please go and visit your grandma and take this basket of food, because I hear she's been ill." So Little Red Riding Hood put on her cloak and set off to walk through the woods to Grandma's house. On the way, she met a wolf. The wolf was hungry, but he didn't dare eat Little Red Riding Hood because there were some woodcutters working nearby. So he asked her where she was going. Little Red Riding Hood was scared, but she answered, "I'm going to my grandma's house on the other side of the wood." Then she ran quickly on her way. The wolf ran as well, much quicker than Little Red Riding Hood, and he got to the house first. He locked Grandma in another room, then he put on one of her spare nice dresses, her cap and her glasses, and got into her bed. When Little Red Riding Hood knocked at the cottage door, the wolf was waiting. Come in, he said in a squeaky voice. These are my Little Red Riding Hood. Come closer, child. Little Red Riding Hood took a step closer. Grandma, what big arms you have, she said. All the better to hug you with, my dear, said the wolf. Little Red Riding Hood took another step towards the bed. And Grandma, what big ears you have! All the better to hear you with, my dear, said the wolf. Little Red Riding Hood took another step towards the bed. And Grandma, what big eyes you have! All the better to see you with, my dear, said the wolf. And Grandma, what big teeth you have, said the Little Red Riding Hood, going up close to the bed. All the better to eat you with, roared the wolf, jumping out of the bed, ready to gobble down Little Red Riding Hood. But just then the door burst open. In came a woodcutter with a big sharp axe, and at once the wolf turned tail and ran away as fast as he could. The woodcutter and Little Red Riding Hood found her real grandma safe and sound. Then they all sat down to some tea, and that bad wolf was never seen. The end. Our next story has a very funny name. It is titled Rumpelstiltskin. One day, a miller told a lie about his daughter to make her seem more important. Our lesson from this story is that we must never tell lies, because lies give people the wrong idea about us. Let us continue our story. My daughter knows how to spin straw into gold, the silly man boasted. The king heard about this and he wanted to see it for himself, so he asked the girl to come to the palace. When she got there, he showed her to a room piled with straw. He said, "Spin this into gold by tomorrow." Then he locked her in the room. The girl started to cry, but then a funny little man appeared. He said he would help her if she gave him her firstborn child. The miller's daughter was so frightened that she agreed. So the little man sat down and spun bundle after bundle of straw into gold. In the morning, the king could not believe his eyes, and the next day he married the miller's daughter. After about a year, the new queen gave birth to a son and was very happy, until the funny little man suddenly appeared. "Now you must give me what you promised," he said. The queen offered to give him all kinds of treasure instead of her son, but he refused it all. In the end, she cried so much that the little man said that if she could guess his name, he would let her off. He would give her 3 guesses and come back in 3 days to hear them. All night the queen thought about every name she had ever heard. She sent out messengers to search for the little man, but they all came back with no news. Late on the last evening, a messenger returned and said to the queen, "I saw a little man singing in the woods. He sang, 'No one can guess that Rumpelstiltskin is my name.'" "Saved," said the queen, and she gave the messenger a big bag of gold. When the little man appeared, she decided to tease him, so she said, "Is your name Ebenezer?" "No," said the little man, "give me your son." "Is your name Methuselah?" "No," said the little man, "give me your son." The queen smiled. "Is there any chance you could be called Rumpelstiltskin?" "Who told you?" roared the little man. He jumped up and down so hard that the ground beneath his feet split open and swallowed him up, and he was never seen again. Our next story is a very funny one. It is called Chicken Licking. One fine day, Chicken Licken went for a walk in the woods. Now, Chicken Licken was not very clever, so when an acorn fell on his head, he thought that the sky must be falling down. What a silly chicken! He set off all as fast as he could to tell the king. On the way, he met Henny Penny and Cocky Locky. "I'm off to tell the king that the sky is falling in," he clucked. "We will come too," said Henny Penny and Cocky Locky. So Chicken Licken, Henny Penny, and Cocky Locky set off to find the king on the way. On the way, they met Ducky Lucky and Drakey Licky. "We are off to tell the king that the sky is falling in," clucked Chicken Licken. "We will come too," said Ducky Lucky and Drakey Licky. So Chicken Licken, Henny Penny, Cocky Lucky, Ducky Lucky, and Drakey Licky all set off to find the king. On the way, they met Goosey Loosey and Turkey Lucky. "We are off to tell the king that the sky is falling in," clucked Chicken Licken. "We will come too," said Goosey Loosey and Turkey Lucky. But Chicken Licken, Henny Penny, Cocky Lucky, Ducky Lucky, Drakey Lucky, Goosey Loosey, and Turkey Lucky all set off to find the king. On the way, they met Foxy Locks. "We are off to tell the king that the sky is falling in," clucked Chicken Licken. "What a good thing I met you all," said Foxy Loxy with a cunning smile. "I know the way. Follow me." But Chicken Licken, Henny Penny, Cocky Lucky, Ducky Lucky, Becky Lucky, Goosey Loosey, and Turkey Lucky all set off behind Foxy Loxy. He led them all straight to his den, where he planned to eat them all for dinner. But just as he was going to lead them all down into his den, there was a bump, and another acorn fell on Chicken Licken's head. He looked up and he looked down, and then he said, "That was what fell on my head. It wasn't the sky, it was an acorn." Everyone laughed. Then they all turned round and went home. Foxy Loxy didn't eat them all up, and they never got to visit the king. The end. Now our next story is the Three Little Pigs. Now you would know, if you've been following our channel, that we have the Three Little Pigs also translated into African languages. We've got the Three Little Pigs in Tree, the Three Little Pigs in Yoruba, in Swahili. We've got it in Ga and Ewe as well. So do check it out if you speak an African language like one of these in the house. It could help you to pick some keywords so that you can also talk confidently when you're speaking these African languages at home. Let us go on to our story. Once there were three little pigs. One day it was time for them to leave home and make their own way in the world. The three little pigs each decided to build themselves a house, one of straw, one of sticks, and one of bricks. They had just finished when along came a big bad wolf, who went up to the straw house. Little pig, let me come in," shouted the wolf. "Not by the hair on my chinny chin chin. I will not let you in," squeaked the first little pig. "Then I will huff and I will puff and I will blow your house down," shouted the wolf. And he did. He huffed and he puffed and he blew the straw house down. But the little pig escaped and ran to the house of sticks. And along came the big bad wolf. He knocked on the door of the stick house. Little pig, let me come in," shouted the wolf. "Not by the hair on my chinny chin chin. I'll not let you in," squeaked the second little pig. "Then I will huff and I will puff and I will blow your house down," shouted the wolf, and he did. But the two little pigs escaped and ran to the house of bricks. Along came the big bad wolf. Little pig, let me come in," shouted the wolf. "Not by the hair on my chinny chin chin. I will not let you in," squeaked the third little pig. "Then I will huff and I will puff and I will blow your house down," shouted the wolf, and he tried. He huffed and he puffed, but he could not blow the brick house down. So the wolf climbed onto the roof and down the chimney, but the clever little pigs had placed a big pot of boiling water on the fire, and the wolf fell straight into it. He ran out of the door and was never seen again. And the little pigs lived happily in the brick house. The end. Our next story is another favorite story of mine. It is titled The Elves and the Shoemaker. Now, I hope by now you've all got sleepy eyelids and you're almost getting there into the land of Nod. If you do get there before the end of the story, then sweet dreams, my lovelies. Now let us go in. There was once a shoemaker who was so poor that he only had enough leather left to make one pair of shoes. Before bedtime, he cut out the pieces of leather to make the shoes. Then he said his prayers and went to bed. In the morning, when the shoemaker sat down to work, he found the shoes standing finished on his table. The stitching was beautiful and the shoes were perfect. He was amazed. Soon after that, a man came in and he liked the shoes so much he paid more than the ordinary price for them. So the shoemaker was able to buy leather for 2 more pairs of shoes with the money. He cut them out in the evening, and when he got up the next day, shoes were finished again. Then 2 more people bought them. That gave the shoemaker so much money that he was able to buy leather for 4 pairs of shoes. Early next morning, he found the 4 pairs finished, and so it went on. What he cut out in the evening was finished in the morning. He soon had plenty of money for food, and even enough to buy himself and his wife fine new clothes. One evening, not long before Christmas, when the shoemaker had cut out his leather as usual, he said to his wife, "How would it be if we were to sit up tonight to see who it is that helps us?" His wife agreed, so they lit a candle and hid themselves in the corner of the room, behind some clothes that were hanging up there. At midnight, 2 little men, dressed in rags, came in. They sat down at the shoemaker's table, took up the leather, and began with their tiny fingers to stitch, sew, and hammer. They did not stop till everything was finished, and then they ran quickly away. The next day, the shoemaker's wife said, "Those little men have made us rich. We ought to say thank you. They must be cold in those rags. I'll make them shirts and trousers and knit them socks, and you can make each of them a pair of shoes." The shoemaker agreed, and in the evening, when they had everything ready, they laid out the presents on the table and hid themselves to see how the little men would behave. At midnight, the 2 little men came skipping in, but instead of the leather cut out and ready, they found the lovely little clothes. At first, they were surprised, and then, very happy, they put on and smoothed down the pretty little clothes, singing, "Now we're dressed so fine and neat, why cut and sew for others' feet?" Then they ran across the floor and out of the door. They didn't come back anymore, but the shoemaker had good luck in everything he did. Our next story is The Wolf and the 7 Little Kids. There was once a goat who had 7 little kids. One day, she had to go into the woods to fetch food for them. So she said, "Dear children, I'm going out, and while I'm gone, take care that you don't let the wolf in. You'll know it is him by his deep voice and black paws." "Yes," answered the kids, "we will take good care of ourselves." It was not long before someone came knocking at the door saying, "Open the door, dear children, it's Mother, and I have a treat for you." But the little kid said, "You are not our mother. She has a soft and sweet voice. You must be the wolf." So the wolf went off to a shop and bought a big lump of chalk. He ate it up to make his voice soft. Then he came back, knocked at the door and said, "Open the door, dear children. Your mother is here and has bought something for each of you." But the wolf had put his black paws up against the window, and the kid said, "We will not open the door. Our mother doesn't have black paws." So the wolf ran to a baker and got him to cover his paws in white flour. Then he went back to the door and knocked again, showing his paws at the window. The kids heard the soft voice and saw the white paws, so they opened the door. When they saw it was the wolf, they ran to hide. One went under the table, the second got into the bed, the third into the oven, the fourth into the kitchen, the fifth into the cupboard, the sixth under the sink, and the seventh into the grandfather's clock. But the wolf found them all. One by one, he swallowed them all down, all except the youngest, because he didn't look inside the grandfather's clock. Then the wolf strolled out into the garden and fell asleep. Not long afterward, the mother goat came back from the wood, and oh dear, how she cried to find all her children gone, but she had the youngest kid calling to her. She found him in the clock, and he told her what had happened. The mother goat ran into the garden where she saw the wolf lying asleep. She took a huge run at him and battered him with a strong head. Bang! Then she kicked him with her strong hoofs. Piff! She kicked him so hard that all her children came tumbling out of his mouth, one after the other. Then she chased him out of her garden. The mother goat went back to the house with all her children jumping around her, and that big bad wolf never came back. Now, next story is Goldilocks and the Three Bears. I must tell you, if you're following our channel for some time, you'd notice that we have reimagined the story Goldilocks and the Three Bears in an African setting. We have called it Amina and the Three Bowls of Tea. So do give it a check out. It's a very interesting story. It will open up your imagination and help you to know some things about the African culture. Now, let us go into our story. One day, a little girl called Goldilocks went for a walk in a wood behind her house. Now, in this wood, there lived a family of three bears. The first was a great big bear, the second was a medium-sized bear, and the third was a teeny tiny bear. They all lived together in a little house. When Goldilocks saw the bear's house, she wondered who lived there. "I'll just look in and see," she said. But there was no one there, because the bears had all gone for a walk. Goldilocks was rather hungry, and when she saw 3 bowls of porridge on the table, she thought she would have a taste. Then she tried the porridge in the great big bowl, but that was too hot. Next she tried the porridge in the medium-sized bowl, but that was too cold. Then she tried the porridge in the teeny tiny bowl, and that was just right. It was so good that she ate it all up. Yum. Then Goldilocks decided she wanted a rest. She went over to 3 chairs standing in a row. First, she tried sitting on the great big chair, but that was too hard. Next, she tried sitting on the medium-sized chair, but that was too soft. Then she tried sitting in a teeny tiny chair, and that was just right. And when she was getting comfortable, she gave a little wriggle, and the chair broke into pieces. Oh dear. There was a staircase in the bear's house, and the Goldilocks thought she would like to have a look upstairs. She found a bedroom, and in the middle of the room stood a great big bed. On one side of it there was a medium-sized bed, and the other side there was a teeny tiny bed. Goldilocks was sleepy, so she thought she would lie down and have a little nap. Then she got up on the great big bed, but that was too hard. Next she tried a medium-sized bed, but that was too soft. Then she tried a teeny tiny bed, and that was just right, so she fell asleep. While she was sleeping, the 3 bears came back from their walk. First they looked at the kitchen table. "Someone has been eating my porridge," said a great big bear in a great big voice. "Someone has been eating my porridge," said a medium-sized bear in a medium-sized voice. Someone has been eating my porridge and they've eaten it all up, said a teeny tiny bear in a teeny tiny voice. Next, the bears looked at their chairs. Someone has been sitting in my chair, said a great big bear in a great big voice. Someone has been sitting in my chair, said a medium-sized bear in a medium-sized voice. Someone has been sitting in my chair and it's all broken, said a teeny tiny bear in a teeny tiny voice. Then the bears went upstairs. Someone has been sleeping in my bed, said a great big bear in a great big voice. Someone has been sleeping in my bed, said a medium-sized bear in a medium-sized voice. Someone has been sleeping in my bed and she's still in it, said a teeny tiny bear in quite a big voice. In fact, he said it so loudly. In fact, he said it so loudly that Goldilocks woke up. When she saw the three bears, she leapt out of bed and ran down to the stairs. And Goldilocks didn't stop running until she was all the way home. The end. So, I hope you have enjoyed our stories. This is the first time that we're reading our bedtime stories, and next week we shall read another theme of stories, another set of 10 to help you to settle your little ones to sleep. So until next time, do join us on our live, and please do not hesitate to subscribe. Please like it and share with your friends. It would really be a great source of encouragement for us. Thank you all. Bye-bye.